In the mid to 19th century, the United States, a nation grappling with its own identity and internal contradictions, found itself on the brink of a cataclysmic event that would shape its future in profound ways. The American Civil War, an epic struggle that unfolded from 1861 to 1865, thrust the country into a maelstrom of conflict, tearing apart the fabric of the nation. This war, often referred to as the War Between the States or the Brothers' War, transcended mere political disagreement. It was a visceral clash of ideals and a reckoning with the deeply ingrained societal structures that defined American experience. At the core of this monumental conflict was the incendiary issue of slavery, a moral quagmire that had haunted the nation since its inception. The Southern states, entrenched in an agrarian economy dependent on the labor of enslaved individuals, fiercely resisted Northern endeavors to eradicate this institution. Slavery, an economic cornerstone for the South, became a moral battleground, with proponents arguing for its preservation and opponents vehemently advocating for its abolition. As the tendrils of discontent snaked through the nation, political and ideological fault lines deepened. The question of states' rights versus federal authority became a contentious fulcrum upon which the fate of the Union teetered. The dichotomy between a centralized government and the autonomy of individual states came to a head with the election of Abraham Lincoln in 1860. Lincoln's victory, fueled by anti-slavery sentiments, triggered a seismic response from the Southern states that felt their way of life was under siege. In an act of defiance and self-preservation, Southern states began to secede from the Union, culminating in the formation of the Confederate States of America. The die was cast, and the nation stood on the precipice of a brutal conflict that would test not only the strength of its military, but the very bedrock principles upon which it was built. The stage was thus set for a harrowing chapter in American history, where brother was pitted against brother and state against state. The American Civil War, with its smoky battlefields and poignant personal stories, unfolded as a crucible of suffering, sacrifice, and transformation. It was a war that laid bare the inherent contradictions of a nation founded on ideals of freedom, yet tainted by the stain of human bondage. As the cannons roared and the fields turned crimson with the blood of the fallen, the nation grappled not only with the physical devastation of war, but also with the profound questions of identity, justice, and the very essence of democracy. The struggle to reconcile these differences and mend the fractured Union would become a daunting task that extended far beyond the cessation of hostilities, marking the beginning of a tumultuous era known as Reconstruction. The initial reverberations of the American Civil War were felt on the quiet shores of Fort Sumter in April 1861, where the first volleys of cannon fire shattered the illusion of unity. This single act set in motion a chain of events that would plunge the nation into a maelstrom of conflict. The war's early days were marked by a fevered mobilization on both sides, as military commanders and political leaders scrambled to assemble their forces, unknowingly embarking on a journey that would unfold into a protracted and harrowing struggle. As the theater of war expanded, the battles etched their stories onto the landscape, transforming serene fields into muddy quagmires and hallowed grounds. The clash of ideologies and the quest for regional autonomy manifested in the brutal engagements at places like Bull Run, where the grim realities of war unfolded amid the mud and chaos. It was here, and in subsequent battles, that the toll on human life and the national psyche became painfully evident. The zenith of this brutal symphony of conflict resonated at Gettysburg, a name forever etched in the annals of American history. The fields of Gettysburg witnessed a clash of titans, where the fate of the nation hung in the balance. The echoes of cannon fire and the poignant silence that followed spoke volumes about the cost of the ideals at stake. Each battle, be it Bull Run, Antietam, or Gettysburg, left an indelible mark, a turning point that shifted the narrative and shaped the course of the war. In 1863, President Abraham Lincoln, with the stroke of a pen, altered the trajectory of the conflict. The Emancipation Proclamation, a watershed moment, transformed the war from a struggle over states' rights into a moral crusade for freedom and equality. African Americans, previously relegated to the margins, now stood at the forefront of the struggle. They became more than just witnesses. They became active participants, shouldering the burden of the fight for emancipation on the front lines. The war, however, was not confined to battlefields alone. Its tendrils reached deep into the fabric of society, affecting every stratum. As soldiers faced the crucible of war, civilians on the home front grappled with their own hardships. Daily life was disrupted as economic strains bore down, food became scarce, and families were uprooted. The war, in all its brutality, unfolded not only on distant battlefields but in the very homes and hearts of the American people. During the American Civil War, the conflict not only tested the mettle of soldiers on the front lines, but also ushered in a transformative period for women on the home front. The war prompted women to assume unprecedented responsibilities, transcending traditional gender roles and setting the stage for lasting societal changes. Women found themselves thrust into the workforce, taking on roles previously reserved for men who had gone off to fight. In factories and farms, women proved their capabilities, demonstrating resilience and adaptability in the face of economic strain caused by the war. Their contributions were instrumental in maintaining production levels and sustaining the war effort. At the same time, the battlefield's grim realities necessitated a surge in medical care. Women, often relegated to the sidelines in the realm of healthcare, now stepped into the forefront as nurses, tending to the wounded and providing essential medical support. Their compassion, skill, and dedication earned them newfound respect and recognition, challenging preconceived notions about women's roles in caregiving professions. Simultaneously, the war heightened tensions and sparked intense debates within communities across the nation. Draft riots erupted in major cities, reflecting the deep-seated divisions within society. Faced with conscription, some citizens vehemently opposed the draft, leading to violent clashes with authority. This unrest laid bare the underlying socio-economic and political fault lines that had long simmered beneath the surface. Opposition to the war grew, as some advocated for a swift end to the bloodshed through negotiations and peace agreements. These anti-war sentiments, fueled by the human cost of the conflict and the draft, underscored the profound impact the war had on ordinary citizens who sought an alternative to the relentless violence that engulfed the nation. Conversely, there were those who fervently championed the Union cause. Patriotism, ideological conviction, and a belief in the Union's righteousness motivated individuals to support the war effort. These starkly differing perspectives illuminated the complex tapestry of American society, torn asunder by conflicting beliefs and allegiances. As the war dragged on, Union General Sherman's infamous march through the Southern states left an indelible mark on the landscape and the psyche of the Confederacy. The total war strategy employed by Sherman sought not only to defeat Confederate forces, but also to break the will of the Southern populace. Sherman's forces wreaked havoc, destroying infrastructure, confiscating supplies, and leaving a trail of devastation in their wake. This scorched earth approach aimed to cripple the Confederacy's ability to sustain itself both on the battlefield and on the home front. The harsh realities of war, coupled with Sherman's ruthless tactics, further deepened the hardships faced by Southern civilians and soldiers alike. Advancements in weaponry and tactics, coupled with the Union's industrial might, marked a pivotal shift in the dynamics of the Civil War. The introduction of rifled muskets, repeating firearms, and ironclad warships transformed the nature of warfare, favoring the Union's ability to produce and deploy these technological innovations on a grand scale. This shift not only tilted the balance on the battlefield, but also underscored the North's strategic advantage in terms of resources and manufacturing capabilities. As the war progressed, the South found itself increasingly isolated from international support, while the Union's naval blockade choked off crucial supply routes. The Confederate economy, heavily reliant on agriculture and slave labor, struggled to sustain the demands of a protracted conflict. This economic disparity, combined with the Union's relentless military campaigns and strategic control of key territories, further eroded the Confederacy's chances of securing a decisive victory. The turning point came in April 1865 when General Robert E. Lee, commander of the Confederate Army of Northern Virginia, faced the stark reality of his dwindling resources and the inevitability of defeat. Recognizing the futility of continued resistance, Lee made the historic decision to surrender to General Ulysses S. Grant at Appomattox Courthouse. This symbolic act, while marking the end of hostilities, opened the door to the challenging chapter of Reconstruction. The post-war era, known as Reconstruction, sought to heal the wounds inflicted by the conflict and reintegrate the Southern states back into the Union. However, this period was fraught with challenges as the nation grappled with issues of racial equality, political reconfiguration, and a socio-economic rebuilding of war-torn regions. The 13th Amendment, ratified in December 1865, abolished slavery and laid the groundwork for a more just and inclusive society. The American Civil War was a crucible that reshaped the nation's trajectory, leaving an indelible mark on its history and influencing its future. As the United States emerged from the shadow of war, the arduous task of rebuilding a divided nation and establishing a path toward a more perfect union lay ahead. The resilience displayed by the American people during this tumultuous period underscores the enduring commitment to the ideals upon which the United States was founded. The echoes of the Civil War continue to reverberate through the pages of history, serving as a poignant reminder of the sacrifices made to preserve the Union and reaffirm the nation's dedication to the principles of liberty, equality, and justice. The high cost of this internal strife underscores the ongoing imperative to strive for unity, understanding, and progress as the United States navigates its ever-evolving journey.